High praise for Bills quarterback Josh Allen from Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. They square off tonight. Week 3 begins. Short week for both teams in Buffalo. Our friend Omar Kelly of the Miami Herald is there in Buffalo getting ready for tonight's game. Omar, thanks so much. I know it's a busy day, a lot going on. Thanks for some of your time. Give me your first thought, opening statement. Where are the Dolphins now? And is this the best possible elixir or the worst to go to Buffalo after 2 straight losses?
This is probably the worst case scenario, but you knew it was on the schedule. Nobody expected this team to start 0-2. Both games were winnable. You kind of pissed down your leg in the opening stretch of the season. Now you go, I think what's the line? 12 or 11 points. That shows you that you're not in the same stratosphere as the Buffalo Bills. But the one thing I can say is you can always expect the unexpected from the Dolphins. And if they do manage to upset the Buffalo Bills, they can reset their season and sort of clean the slate. Now, if you lose and lose in embarrassing fashion, we all know what's going to happen. You're on fire watch. Is Mike McDaniel going to make the flight home? I've seen Adam Gase get fired here. So I've seen Mike Tannenbaum get fired here. I've seen a locker room acknowledge and say about Adam Gase. We went in the locker room at the end of the season one year. I think it was 2000 and goodness. I've dealt with a lot of firing, so you gotta excuse me for not knowing the year specifically. Do you want Gase around? Well, that's not my decision to make. It's above my pay grade, and you take the message. The one thing I will say about Mike McDaniel is this team has not quit on him. This team still continues to fight for him. The question is, can they clean it up? Can they clean up the operation? Can they clean up the protections? Can Tua give you a clean game? And can the defense, which everybody expected to be the backbone of this team, start to play like our expectations?
You mentioned the player reactions to those questions. The questions already started. I was looking at the transcripts from the press conferences this week. 5 or 6 different players asked about McDaniel's status, and no one did the not my decision, above my pay grade. They all, we love Mike McDaniel. We love Mike McDaniel. Now, at the end of the day, they're not the ones making the decisions. But, Chris Sims made the point yesterday. Is it McDaniel or is it Chris Grier? Like, is it both? Where do we apportion the blame for the current state of the team?
It's both. And unfortunately, Steve Ross is in a tough spot because he's the one that said, I'm going to run it back. I'm going to continue to work with these rebuild and this team. But he also said the status quo won't do. Well, here we are. We're back to the status quo, if not worse, because this is probably worse than the status quo. You can't come into a season and play as flat as you did. But to Mike's defense, the team has rallied back from last year's disaster playing without Tua. They won a 7 of 9 games. Obviously ended the season poorly against the Jets, which kept them out of the playoffs. But you saw the fight. Now, if you see the same level of fight with this team, then that's a great sign. However, and I don't hide from this. I've said it all of last year. I continue to say it this year. It's a poorly built roster, poorly constructed roster. From top to bottom, a lot of the issues that you're having are extremely predictable when you go to offensive line was not put together well. Secondary was not put together well. Your tight end plan, especially after trading away Jonnu Smith, was banking on Darren Waller, who has not practiced a lick this whole season because of a hip injury. And yeah, some of this is misfortune because of injuries, but that's your job, to have a roster that is protected from a depth standpoint. And that's always been the issue here. To me, Chris Grier deserves more of the blame and probably the first firing, because how long has he been here? He's been here 20 years in a position of power and, been running the organization as a top executive since 2019. Clearly, this is a failure. So, but if Steve Ross does anything, I need him to do a scorched earth cleanse and wipe the whole thing and start fresh, because that's literally the only thing he's never done.
The problem is it's so early, but the other problem is the bye week doesn't come until week 12. This is the best opportunity before week 12 to have an extended runway to get the interim coach ready and the interim GM if both end up gone. And look, I'm a firm believer once the owner decides I'm going to make a change at the end of the season, let's go ahead and implement it out of respect to everyone. It allows us to begin our process. We're not running around behind the coach's back, lining up possible targets for interviews. Everybody knows where we stand, and let's just go forward. What's that?
Steve Ross has never been shy about searching for a head coach while he still has a head coach.
Well, exactly. Yeah, that's true. That's true. All the way back to going to talk to Jim Harbaugh when Tony Sparano was the coach. But it was 10 years ago that Joe Philbin was fired after only 4 games, a 3-game losing streak, a bye week. So I feel like if this goes 42-10, yeah, we're on Friday, or from the moment the game ends, really, we're on watch. We're on notice for that announcement, that leak, that report that there's been major changes with the Dolphins.
Yeah, we've been on watch. We've been on watch since the Colts game. I know part of my mission is to find Steve Ross after the game. We know it's coming, unless they upset the Buffalo Bills. But I would like to see me personally, I would like to see them play play another opponent in their division that's not the juggernaut of the NFL at home. I'd like to see them get to the Jets game, because if you go 0-4, losing with 3 teams and you're losing to all 3 teams in your division, then clearly a reset is necessary. But the outcome of a Buffalo Bills game is not going to indicate to me whether or not this team has checked out on Mike or not, because this opponent is a fearful opponent that just about top 4 team in the league right now, and unfortunately you don't have the talent to match them, especially at home on a short week.
You make a great point. Because if the Bills do blow them out tonight, if Mike McDaniel can get the reset between now and next Monday night, they get that extra break and win that game, then that shows they still believe in him. That shows he's still the right guy to lead the team. But that's the question: is Stephen Ross gonna give him that opportunity if the final score tonight is something like 42-10? What's your gut tell you?
My gut tells me that they don't have the firepower to beat the Buffalo Bills. This is a team that consistently can get pressure on you with 4 rushers, and you basically have 3.5 offensive linemen. So that's going to be a bad recipe. And then we're just going to see Tua, happy foot Tua under pressure, and that's never a good Tua. Now, can magic happen? That's why they say any given Sunday. You can beat any team any given day. And truthfully speaking, a win against Buffalo resets everything. It wipes the slate clean for the Miami Dolphins. But I just don't know if they have the firepower to do it. Now, on the firing or on the relieving of the jobs, I don't think this is the game that Steve Ross does this for. I think Steve Ross believes in trying to give people a fair opportunity so it can project to others that he was fair with the people that he hired and employed. Look, he wanted to fire Brian Flores, and he let him finish the entire season. So I just don't know if firing, no matter what happens, a 40-point loss, who knows? But I just don't think a firing after a Buffalo loss is really something that's going to happen.
I'd love to know at what point during the 2021 season Steve Ross activated the Tom Brady, Sean Payton plan. I have a feeling that thing was simmering during the 2021 season because it was all lined up and ready to go until it didn't happen, but they still got whacked for tampering. As it relates to the offense, it feels like teams have figured out how to neutralize what goes well. And I've seen a lot of talk about taking away the middle of the field. Xavier Howard, the former Dolphins corner after week 1, made the comment that if you take away the first read, Tua goes into panic mode. Like, has their code been cracked?
I think it possibly has because um, I don't know if that's fair to say because I don't necessarily think that they have the offensive line to protect and give Tua time. When I watch the film, I'm seeing a quarterback who's always rushed, always pressure. And I just watched 2 games last night. And yes, quarterbacks are rushed or pressure, but they have time. They have time to operate. And I don't think Tua has time to operate. Uh, have they cracked the code? Yes. But teams have been doing the same thing with Tua from the beginning of his career. Stack the middle of the field, force him to throw outside. Last week he threw outside. The question is, can you do that for the entire season? And I don't know if you can. To me, the running game is what they need to alleviate some of the pressure that Tua's under, and probably a tight end. And right now, you don't have a tight end, even though Julian Hill and Tanner Connor have been with this organization for 3 years. Neither of them are anything to write home about. And they just haven't been able to stay committed to the running game because of the situations of the game. Because right now their average is pretty impressive, but they just and Devon Achane he's really playing well. Probably hasn't played this well since his rookie season, but they just have to they have to keep abandoning the game. I'd love to see them get off to an early start, get an early lead, so that they can play a play action game in the second half of the game.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.